Where do you go when you dream? Do you believe the story you've told yourself about your life? I didn't believe the stories people had written for me. Like countless others, I came to New York to chase a dream. I didn't know what it could mean. I just heard the call and ran.
Our new queen for next summer 2019 is...
Years of getting knocked down and getting back up, 2019 felt like I was stepping into my power. I felt connected to New York in a whole new way. In the hustle, I could make out a voice saying, "You belong here." What if I reminded you that every story needs darkness? Or that hitting rock bottom could be the best thing to ever happen to you? In Shutdown, everything changed except that voice. It told me to tell you, you belong here. I see the pen in your hand. Please know your beautiful story isn't over yet. Where do you go when you dream?
Despite everything that's happening, I see people helping each other in any way that they can, and that gives me hope for the future. Table for two?
Want to know a showgirl's best kept secret? Makeup that steals the spotlight. What's my secret? Wet and wild.
Life is a series of rooms. And it's in those rooms that we mold our existence. We spend our lives traveling from room to accomplish what? Eat, think, laugh, learn, become? But what would happen if there were no rooms? Our souls will be free to roam the atmosphere with the elements that give us life. I recently looked up in the dictionary the meaning of life. It said it's the culmination of one's thoughts and actions. It's funny that my thoughts are a part of that equation. See, my mind is heavy with decisions from the past, preoccupied with present choices with future consequences. What if the meaning of life is in everything that we see? Or is it in creating the life that we want to see? Maybe it's not about meaning at all. Maybe we just need to be. Finding the truest self and living in that. Not for them, for me.
Hi, you've reached the voicemail of Briar Hughes. I'm so sorry I missed your call. If you leave your name and number, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks.
Briar, honey, it's Dad. I haven't heard from you for a couple days, and I'm starting to get worried. Give me a call back when you can, okay?
Welcome once again to the Radical Imagination. I'm your host, Jim Vredos. I'm a sociologist who's taught at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and Yeshiva University here in New York City. Burlesque is an art form dating back hundreds of years and literally means to make a mockery or satirize. As a dramatic, literary, and musical work, it often has taken theater and combined it with parody-like comedy, drama, music, and dancing. American burlesque is one of its multiple offshoots and is often a more exotic and provocative version of the original Victorian burlesque. It emphasizes elaborate movements and gaudy looks. Artists tell a story through their performance, most of which are satirical. Many of the female performers in today's world of burlesque consider it a form of empowerment and assertiveness, a venue to celebrate their uniqueness, what excites them, and a place to be sexy and clever. A place for girls and everybody to just have fun. It's always a joy, blessing, and enormous fun to have Pearls Daly on the Radical Imagination. This is her third visit. Pearls is a talented and gifted comedic actress, showgirl, filmmaker, and model whose body of work includes film, TV, including an appearance in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel in the role of Maxine, stand-up, sketch comedy, theater, including a featured role in I'm Not a Comedian, I'm Lenny Bruce, directed by Joe Montagna, improv, magic, and burlesque. She's been on the production team of the New York Burlesque Festival since 2016. She's entertained in such venues as Lincoln Center, the Magic Castle, Radio City Music Hall, the Geffen Playhouse, the Box, Duane Park, and the Players Theater, to name just a few. In 2020, she directed, produced, and starred in her first narrative short film, Briar, which won numerous festival awards for Best Thriller, Best Cinematography, and Best Actress. She's an accomplished model whose clients include Pepsi, Bergdorf Goodman, Olay, Canon, Defy Lingerie, and many, many others. In line with her burlesque career, Pearls in 2019 was crowned Miss Coney Island, my favorite beach as a child, but in truth, the only beach I knew actually existed at that time. Any case, she's been beautifully described as having old Hollywood essence and modern sensibility. As she puts it, I'm here to change your mind about the girl next door, inspired by the great actors of the silent screen. I'm here to create characters that are not afraid to get dirty, play dirty, and have impact. I'm the unexpected leading lady. I'm also thrilled to welcome Arthur Wu to what I hope will be the first of many visits to the show. Arthur and Pearls have recently married and have joined forces romantically and artistically to become an extremely talented, creative, and skilled production team. Arthur is an accomplished cinematographer and a director of photography for numerous national and international projects focusing on beauty, fashion, and narrative film projects. He's a third-generation Chinese American who grew up in San Francisco, perfecting his craft and technique in cinematic lighting, composition, color theory, and camera movements that has enabled him to plan and shoot for some of the most well-known brands in the world, such as L'Oreal Professional, Maybelline, Estee Lauder, Prada, and Vogue Mexico. So It is such a blessing. I'm so very, very pleased to welcome you both to the Radical Imagination. Thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. It's great to be back,
It's
Jim.
terrific.
Thank you.
It is. It's been a while, but I'm glad you're back, and I'm glad Arthur is with you to be back. So you're not the girl next door. What were you trying to get across there, in terms of that quote, and in terms of your general orientation to some of your work, Pearls?
Well, there's such an image that comes with being the girl next door, but I think we're never just one thing as an artist or as a person. So my approach to my art has changed dramatically. I no longer feel like I am just one thing. And I think burlesque in particular has kind of opened my mind to different facets of who I am. Mm-hmm. When I got into burlesque, I was still getting to know myself a lot as an artist. And then through my journey through that career, you're kind of running the whole show. You're your booking agent, you're your costumer, you're your choreographer, you do everything. And so it kind of opened my mind to be like, well, I'm really not just this one thing as a burlesque person and as an actress. So I'm leaning more into creating my own work, which is why in 2020, I kind of planted the seed to be my own production company along with my amazing husband. So in 2020, we adapted a script idea that I had, and we shot it in our apartment. And from then on, I feel like I caught the bug. And so I've been really adamant about creating my own path and my own space in my career.
So you grew up upstate, right?
Yes.
And made your way down to the city, and studied at various venues, correct?
Yeah, I went to a trade school for acting. I went to AMDA in 2005, from 05 to 06.
Okay.
And it came down to, I could have continued at a 4-year program, but I wanted to be working, so I kind of hit the ground running.
Right.
Yeah.
And then one thing led to another, but it was the dancing, the creativity that burlesque allowed you.
Yes.
That really opened up. What opened up for you?
The freedom to be creative. One thing that always appealed to me the most about burlesque specifically is that I think in entertainment, it's one of the closest things to mirror the studio system of old Hollywood. Huh. Meaning, like, a girl walks into burlesque, Norma Jean, and she leaves Marilyn Monroe. I think that the best burlesque is actually not put on, it comes through. And when you look at all of those actresses and actors from that era, they were themselves, but it was like they were the best versions of themselves. Or they capitalized on like certain unique talents and unique features, and their makeup and their costume design and all of the roles they signed on to do kind of helped, shape who they are in our eyes. So
and this is back in the 20s, 30s, 40s. That was
right. I mean, I really think of like the golden era of Hollywood.
Era.
So the 40s through to the early 60s. For me personally, that's where I feel the most pulled towards that imagery and that kind of old Hollywood glamour. But they were great actors. That's the thing too. It's like they were, stunning and beautiful, but the stories they were telling and the performances they were giving were rooted in very, very great writing. A lot of them, and they were very truthful and real. But it was the entire package, and I feel like burlesque is a great opportunity to explore that as an actor.
Weren't they also? We still have the studio system, right? The moguls are controlling the shots, so you still have some of that. Who are some of the actors you're thinking about when you say the golden age here? So our audience.
Well,
those are sort of a little older here.
There's so many that I love, but in particular, especially with a project that Arthur and I, that actually he wrote and directed recently, I fell down the rabbit hole of Donna Reed. Donna Reed, yes.
Remember her? Yeah. Talking about the girl next door.
Absolutely.
What was her family? She was a very perky. She was always involved, right? Helping the kids get to school. She could do anything, right? exceedingly well. I'm thinking of the Donna Reed show, right? Or,
Right.
But she was a stunning actress as well. Although you didn't quite see the glamour in that Donna Reed show. There, she was this wonderful suburban housewife and mother and so on.
Right. But by today's standards, if you were to see images of Donna Reed in the Donna Reed show, like, she looks very glamorous. And that's what burlesque is now. It's like a heightened version of femininity and what that means to whoever's performing it.
Fascinating. And it's, why the necessity to heighten it?
Well, I think the style of acting now that is very popular is very real. Like when you're, watching procedural television, and all those shows are great. Law and Order. It's like very real and gritty New York, and people have no makeup on, and they're running around in their tracksuits, and the FBI, and they're all buttoned up, and it's awesome. But it's not.
It's not glamorous.
It's not glamorous.
Yeah, let's use that word.
It's not glamorous. It's wonderful.
It's not fun. It's glamour.
Exactly.
Right.
It's great acting. It's super cool for what it is. But what always appeals to me are the heightened versions of those things. But they still have to be truthful, and it still has to be a good story.
A good story. And Arthur, San Francisco. All right. So you came to New York about 10 years ago. And so what was the reason for you coming? And what did you bring as a narrative from your experiences in San Francisco to your craft now?
Yeah, well, Jim, I basically grew up in a very working class environment where the arts, anything related to that, whether it was like music, film, it wasn't even an option as far as a career. I didn't even realize that there were people who were actually making these things happen. It was just like, oh, okay, there's a movie on, that's cool, but what am I going to do with my life? And so my upbringing was really focused around something that was really practical.
What were your folks? What did your folks do? For me,
my dad was an accountant for the IRS for the longest time.
Accountant for the IRS.
Yep.
Oh my
goodness.
So
I always had someone doing my taxes growing up. So I'm
buttoned down. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then my mom was an administrative assistant for a hospital for basically her whole career. And yeah, so for
not much creativity there in a sense, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's kind of a, especially there's a mix of a couple of things happening there. Just like the cultural background where there's expectations for my background is Chinese American, certain expectations about how my life should go, and then there's also the working class background that we're from, where there's expectations of how life should be led. What type of job I should get and things of that nature. However, being an only child, I always just had I had a lot of time to myself as a kid. So I was always in fantasy. I loved comic books. I loved cartoons. I loved video games.
There you go.
And so for me, like there was always just I used to illustrate as well when I was a kid, and so there was always just something magical that I always wanted to escape to. And there was just something that didn't feel totally connected going down a certain career path for me. And so, I did the traditional path of going to college. I studied engineering, worked in corporate America for a little bit.
That's what was expected of you from your family.
Exactly right.
This is it.
Yep.
Arthur, okay, you're set.
Yeah, and because I was never really exposed to, there were a couple art classes here and there that I would kind of dabble in, but I was never really given the idea that this was even a possibility for me until I started really taking things more seriously as far as exploring what things I could do to possibly have as like a side hustle, so that I wouldn't be completely overburdened with like my corporate job.
Where did that happen? Right, Pearls came from upstate there, Ithaca, right?
Yeah.
And to the big city and started the dancing. So what was the impetus for you? What began the transformation?
I remember as clear as day. It was like it was yesterday. I was sitting in a friend's car. I think I was 15 years old, and a song came on that I'd never heard before. And this was like when raves were kind of like still underground. Electronic music was just starting to make its way to America.
Okay.
And I was like, what is this music? I'd never heard this music before. And he was like, oh, this is like trance music. And so I was like, tell me more about it, because this song is amazing. I've never heard anything like that.
Trance. Trance.
Yeah.
Trance.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, like it's basically dance music. It's now they call it like EDM. So basically, it kind of falls under one umbrella.
Okay.
Electronic dance music. But at the time, no one really knew about it. It wasn't mainstream. Like what was mainstream was like alternative rock. Hip hop was really starting to make a big dent in the music industry.
Right.
And so he started taking me to these quote unquote parties, which are actually raves. They were underground parties that people would just throw. And I started DJing. I just my parents bought me a couple of turntables.
Interesting.
All of this was like a hobby.
Wait now, your parents knew about this and they,
Yeah.
okay, here's a couple of turntables?
Yeah, because
Well,
they're my you know, as strict as my parents were, they gave me a certain sense of freedom in terms of having the ability to, well, as long as you're taking care of your business in terms of your studies and things like that, go have fun, go do things as long as you're not being crazy.
Okay, fair enough.
So so I was like, I want a couple of turntables. I really want to do this thing. They're like, yeah, sure, it's fine. You had your straight A's for the quarter or the semester or whatever. Go ahead and do it. And so from there, I had the bug of like, you know what? I can have something on the side to do for fun.
And you were 15, 16?
I was 15 years old, yeah.
Now, when did you come to New York?
When I was 28, actually.
So you still had another...
So I still went through the whole college, everything process, studied engineering, did all that. But it was always...
You graduated?
Yeah. So I worked, and then I worked in corporate America at a software company for a number of years. But that music, the introduction to the music world is what really got me to start looking at...
Stuck with you.
Yeah.
Music again.
Music's what started it.
Okay, so I got to ask you. So, all right, how did you meet this beautiful woman here? What was how did that happen?
It's actually a great story.
It's actually
it's
a great story because
Well,
here's the thing. I was just walking down the street in New York City.
Wait now, why did you come here for?
Oh well, I came. Okay, so before that, I came here because during my music journey, I started my own independent music label with a friend.
Really?
And we had a long story short, we kind of had it wasn't necessarily a falling out, but we had a miscommunication about what our expectations were. And so essentially
sort of like the Simon and Garfunkel of your day.
Yes, but we quite didn't make it that far.
No, Simon had some artistic.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
So that left a bad taste in my mouth, and I realized that if I really want to make at that time I was starting to take music really seriously, and I was like, maybe I can make this a career. Because I was kind of burnt out with corporate America. I wanted to do something different. And that experience of like having the label kind of fall on itself after like a year and a half of running it, I really started looking at the finances of things. And I started realizing, wow, there's no money for me in this unless I did certain things.
All right.
And I was like, I don't want to perform live. I just want to write music. I want to like perhaps DJ every now and then. But a lot of the money in DJing is performing live and going out to different venues and whatnot.
So you did the opposite. You went east, young man, rather than go west.
Right.
You saw New York as the...
Yeah, but it wasn't. So I know this is a long story, but
no.
Essentially, I kind of quit music. I was like, I'm burnt out with this. I don't want to do this anymore. And so I just randomly picked up a camera one day because I was like, I really love cameras. I had some extra money for my job. I was like, I'm just gonna like shoot some stuff.
And Pearls walked by.
No, this is still in San Francisco.
Much later. We're still in San Francisco
right now.
now.
Get to New York.
So eventually I basically started shooting. I had my camera everywhere. I was the annoying guy that was always taking photos and taking video of everyone.
Okay.
And eventually people started asking me. They're like, hey, like you have this camera. Can you shoot some stuff for me? I'll pay you. And I was like, oh wait. I didn't actually realize that I could get paid for this thing.
Yeah.
And that just kind of snowballed. After doing that for a couple of years in San Francisco, I was, I really wanted I started seeing money come in as a side hustle. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this could be a thing that I can transition to. Mm-hmm. And so a bunch of friends and I were thinking about making a move. And it was either going to be a big market like LA or New York. Because they were tired of San Francisco. They wanted to move.
Got it.
And so we just decided on New York because, when you're from Northern California, you're already kind of used to California. So let's try something different.
Gotcha.
So I came to New York and, it took me a couple of years, but I was able to build my network again after kind of figuring out what I was doing and was able to go full time from there.
But we're all waiting. We're waiting for the next. How did you meet this people?
Yeah, so funny story. I was actually walking, I was minding my own business walking down the street. And
Where? I remember.
It's the
street where you live.
Lower East Side.
Lower East
so
Side,
at the time, I'm walking down the street with my head down, and I hear this lady screaming, help me, help me.
Oh, no.
And I look up, and I'm like, what's going on? And I see smoke coming from this building. And I'm like, oh my God, this woman is like trapped in the building.
Wow.
And so I rush in, I break down the door.
Wow.
And
what a guy.
the rest is history.
Wait a minute. No, wait. So who was in the building? Who was in the... Pearls was... You were acting, or there was a... Okay, you're losing...
He's
Okay.
he's pulling your leg. He's pulling my leg. So we discussed before we came. He's
very
like,
believable.
He was like, I know.
Very
he's like,
believable.
He's a great actor.
The damsel in distress.
He was like, so
Yeah.
I know Jim is going to ask us how we met. He's like, let me tell the story.
All
And
right,
I'm
you
like,
told-
okay, you got it.
See,
So
we
he's
all
pulling
see
your
the
leg.
different story differently.
So,
All right.
So the real story is we're one of the more modern couples, and we met on one of the dating apps.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Which my wife, as a psychotherapist, is also dealing with all kinds of people. That's the way you meet people these
Yeah.
days. Not in the glamorous days. My parents met in the park, Central Park.
Oh, wow.
That's very romantic. Very, she was painting. He came up with his soldier's uniform. Can I sit and
Wow.
watch you paint? I said, sure. A few hours later, he was still there. They had a date, and the rest is history. But as an only child, I relate to your story. But okay, so you finish up the story here.
Yes.
Finish-
So
yes.
we
And then we got to get to some of your work too. Yeah.
I had never online dated. He was my first
Oh, the online. Okay.
my first online date.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And we were one swipe away from us not even being in this room together.
Yeah.
Because you probably haven't been on the dating apps. So
no,
so-
no, I haven't.
so
no,
so
no.
essentially-
Never, and probably and never would.
No,
No. Okay.
So basically, when you have someone's profile on there,
Yeah.
you see all the pictures and everything.
Yeah.
But they're actually, I don't know what the extent of this is, but there are actually certain escorts who actually use these apps to pretend that they're single, but then they actually are, looking for people to have be their customers. And that's what I've heard. I don't know how true it is, but
Right.
from some of the
Okay.
profiles I've seen, I can see that being true.
Yeah. Okay.
So
All
I'm,
right.
I'm looking through these profiles, and so
Yeah.
her profile comes up.
Not
I'm
pulling
looking.
my leg
I'm
down
looking
again,
through.
is it?
No, this is an actual
Okay.
thing.
All right.
This is so I'm looking through the profiles. I see her profile. It's like,
Yeah.
do you want to like her or meet her? And I'm looking.
You already liked her. You want to meet her, right? Okay.
You like swipe left or swipe right. If you don't want to meet them, you swipe a certain way. If you want to meet them, you swipe yes.
Okay.
But looking at her profiles, every single profile, and I don't know if this is because you were, it was like your first time on online dating.
Yeah, I'd never.
So normally you use like normal photos. You use like pictures of your friends, of yourself, like
Yeah.
not taken with a great camera. It's just like
Yeah.
average photos.
Selfies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
Every single photo was like a poster or a print or something, which was like a really professionally done,
Oh my.
glamorous
And
photos.
wearing all
Glamour,
kinds of...
yeah.
So
it was-
I'm thinking, I'm
costumes
like,
and
this
stuff.
has got to be a scam. Like, there's no way that this is a real person. who's, like-
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
yeah, like why would this person be on a dating app?
Yeah.
And
See?
I was like this
You were
close.
too cynical. She's a romantic. This is the way it should be. You
One
meet-
thing I think
yeah,
that's so
go ahead.
sweet is
Yeah.
with the photos I chose, there's one photo I have that I took at the American Air Power Museum with all these vintage planes. And I have like a red polka dot top on, and I'm like it's very patriotic with the planes, and I have this vintage hair. And he was like, yeah, I thought you looked like Ingrid Bergman. And I was
How
like,
nice.
oh.
Wow.
I remember he told me that after,
Wow.
later down the road when
So-
we were together, he was like, you reminded me of her. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
I can tell her, we could have 16 shows here together. But
Yeah.
I want to get into beautiful, wonderful, wonderful stories. Really heartwarming.
It was a magical first
Magical,
date. I heard his
magical.
voice and I knew he was very special.
And then, so now you have a production company
yes.
in which
Starting
you
out,
have
yeah.
created this incredible short narrative, Briar, and your work is called Layers, right? We have a clip that we're going to be showing. Would you like to explain those? You want to explain Layers first, because isn't that also about corporate America? Aren't you both making comments and have connected in some way with some of the advertisers and so on? And how is that all working out? But maybe you could talk about Layers first, your
Yes.
work, and then Briar.
Okay, yeah. So Layers is essentially a thought that I had because I'm actually moved to New York. The primary reason I moved to New York from LA is because I initially didn't see myself making movies, even though that's changed now. But initially, I was really drawn into the fashion industry. I loved fashion magazines. I loved men's fashion, women's fashion, just like looking at it. It was just a really artistic, whimsical world. It reminded me of my childhood in a way, where fantasies and comic books and things like that, just the clothing, the advertising, everything was so just different from everything that was like quote unquote real.
You could have made a better choice.
Yeah, exactly.
My goodness.
And so
I can see your closet at home. It must be. You must be in seventh heaven.
Actually, we have pared down. That's another show. It's beautiful.
Okay.
Though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So layers.
So
involves...
essentially, I shot a fair number of like fashion editorials and things of that nature over the years. But then as the pandemic hit,
yes,
and in New York City specifically, like people just stopped going out for a long time. And so I found myself just not being interested in fashion at all. I was just like t-shirt, whatever. Even though I'd always been that way, I'd always made some effort to look decent.
Yeah.
And then as we started to come out of it, I started thinking again. I was like, I think I had an experience going out somewhere and I just saw everyone dressed up. It was a fashion show, I think it was. And I really missed that. And I just remember being like, it kind of reignited, going out again kind of reignited my passion for what fashion means to people.
Yeah.
And all the different things that it can mean for someone who is at work where they feel like they need to wear the power suit to feel like they have power. Someone who is going out to a party to, maybe if they're in a bad mood, they put on something, it transforms them. And so for me, Layers was kind of a conversation about what fashion can mean to people in different capacities. And
I must interject. I totally relate, and that's why you're a terrific couple. I'm terrifically happily married as well. My wife speaks your language. I'm the t-shirt guy, but she's sitting in the audience here. She dresses in a glamorous way, and she relates to that. Clothes are very important in the way you look and so on. So I totally understand what you're saying. Now, if we may segue into this dark work of your...
One thing on Layers,
yes,
which was
please.
very exciting, and I have to give my husband all the credit here too. He's like really helped me learn about film production and producing. I mean, when I met him, I was just, front of camera or on stage, but since we've really enjoyed creating together. And Layers, I helped him produce it, which was really, really challenging and fun. And he really just like nailed the whole vision. And it was just so much fun to go and put that together. I mean, we went way out in Brooklyn. We were outside filming. We had our talent in a tree. You'll see it all. It was really...
we are putting it on.
Yeah, we'll put it on.
We're going to have that segment.
But I just...
see,
he's amazing at what he sees in his mind and then like executing it from the beginning to the end. It's just beautiful.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy that you're showing it because it's
no,
awesome.
we will, and we're also showing. We're going to be showing a segment of Briar.
Yes.
So now this is this is from the dark side here.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about that. Now you also were involved in this production as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. So
we were a two-man band. It's such an awesome moment. So many things were happening.
It's wonderful to work together, right?
Yeah, we have a really awesome working rhythm.
How nice.
We had just gotten married. We got married a week before shutdown, so
a week before.
A week before shutdown, COVID.
So it was. I think the actual date where they did lockdown was March 20th, if I remember correctly. So we had between March 17th and March 20th of 2020.
Yeah.
2020.
And we got legally married at the county clerk's office in downtown on March 11th, 2020.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Snuck in there. All right.
Yeah. I mean, it was a whirlwind. So we found, and we didn't live together before we got married, so we had to find an apartment. So we did it. We get an apartment. We're in shutdown, and then it's like it started hitting us. And we're both freelancers, so we were like, what, we just got to sit tight. Like, what are we doing? And then he was like, I want to do something. Do you have anything you want to shoot? Like, we're home. Like, let's do something.
Right.
And over the years, I had written out ideas of the one day thing that I wanted to film, or I had filmed a wacky show with a friend of mine on an iPhone. That's a story for another day. But I was interested in, producing content.
Okay.
And so I had this idea about a serial killer who dies at home. And so I had this idea written out. That's the story for Breyer.
Yes.
And I told him, and I was like, well, I have this idea. It's not a great script, but I think we could pull it off at home if we adapt certain things. So we did it. We shot this entire short film based in our apartment at the time, and then we green screened in another actress from her apartment. We green screened her in, and we had other voiceover talent to kind of fill in for these other characters, which in normal times we would have gone out and filmed the scenes and went to all these locations.
So it took a lot of skill to put this all
Oh my God,
together.
the most amazing. I mean, first, like, he, you know, wanted to try some different lighting techniques, and so he killed this movie. Like, visually,
No
I mean,
pun intended. Yeah.
like, he killed this movie.
No,
I know.
yeah, see,
I know. And
it's scary. It's
spooky.
Intense, spooky.
Very eerie. And again,
Very
because
eerie.
it was shut down and because there were certain things we had to cut, it is very experimental
Right.
in how it unfolds.
Yeah.
But
it won all these kind of all
it
kinds
did.
of awards. So there you go.
It did. And I mean, at the time too, when, you know, me personally, like as a producer, like learning all these things, the world was online. So all the online festivals and all the things, like everybody was looking for ways to connect with people and for content online. So it was kind of kismet in that way too, where, you know, our first festival tour was really fun, and the feedback was really positive. A lot of people really loved it, and people went wild for his cinematography. I mean, if you saw our apartment, I mean, it wasn't a bad apartment, but it certainly was not this like cinematic, like you wouldn't think like that's where we're gonna film a movie. That apartment, tiny, shaped strange. I mean, it was just like such a beautiful moment. And also, you know, in the story of our filmmaking career, it's such a sweet moment because it's like our first apartment.
It's like your
literally,
honeymoon present
yeah,
to
it's kind of
each
like
other,
our
isn't it?
honeymoon. Like
This is our honeymoon.
Yeah.
We're hunkered down.
We're hunkered down. We're gonna make
It could be the end of the world, and now we're gonna do this.
We're gonna make
really
a scary movie.
strange, eerie movie about a serial killer.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
No, it's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
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 You can't, now you don't want to. Well, you're going to tell us how we can see this,
Sure.
because we don't want to give anything away. But it's fabulous. It really
Thank
is.
you. Thank you.
So, what else have you been working on? Who's? You have the ideas. You have ideas. How do you work together? On what comes next, or what you wake up one morning? Hey, you know, I got this on my mind. How does that work?
It's a little bit of both, actually. I think we're kind of we're both only children, and so I think we kind of like live in our own little worlds.
And my wife too.
Oh, really?
There we go. There we go.
Wow,
So
look at us. How fun.
So yeah, we often come up with our own. We're often spending, even though we're physically in the same place, we're often just kind of apart during the day, because we're just used to having our own world to be in, and so she'll be at her desk writing. I'll be at my desk trying to.
in
figure
this,
out.
I love that word. What do you call it? Odd shaped. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, we live in
we've
a
moved.
completely different
We've
apartment.
now you're in a
moved.
different-
We moved.
Yeah, that
yes.
other apartment is another story. It flooded twice.
So
and
now
it was just
you're not in just a closet here together.
No. We're
No.
in an actual apartment now. So.
Actual.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have one. That's what we do. We
Yeah.
have one part of it, and
Yep.
you're in the other, and then you meet this and that, and
Yeah.
okay. So what do you? Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, what I'm working on right now is I just finished. We just finished production on my first short film that I wrote and directed, and we're going right now. Today, I was actually going through options for the soundtrack. So looking for composers and trying to speak to people and trying to get that all wrapped up. And that's essentially the film is essentially quick tagline: hypnosis meets gaslighting. So it's essentially like a kind of
Wow.
a thriller in that regard. So yeah, that's what I'm
Hypnosis
working.
meets gaslighting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
You got explain that a little more. Just be.
Well, I don't really have a fully fledged way of explaining it without giving away the thing.
Fair enough.
Because it's still kind of like it's not completely finished yet. So once I have that all, then I
Come
can
back
send
and
you
just
some
show-
more.
It's an
details on
intriguing
that.
title.
Yeah.
So
I actually
It's
think
called
you're gonna love it.
It's called Civic Duty, basically.
Civic
Civic Duty. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's about I guess the idea is thinking that you should be doing one thing, but then you've actually been persuaded you've actually been persuaded, and you're not actually knowing that you're doing the wrong thing when you think you're doing the right thing.
Wow.
So that's kind of
That's sort of like
that's the idea.
It's
in a
gonna,
macro way with American culture.
It's
But yeah, we won't
gonna
go.
be amazing.
And what role do you have a role for Pearls?
Oh yeah, she was one of the stars. She's the main character actually.
She's
Yeah.
the main character. Okay, all
Yep.
right. We won't go.
And can I mention one of the references?
Yeah.
Okay, so not to give it away, but
Yeah.
like visually, let's just say certain films like Casablanca
Yes.
are referenced. So visually, you're definitely going to get a taste of some old Hollywood, and some modern drama and things. I'm with him where we're kind of keeping that one a little quiet, just because
No, I got you.
he knocked it out of the park with his directing. The cinematography it is amazing. Like I cannot wait to share that
So
one with you.
it's sort of a noir with a noir sort of.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we talked a little before. We've had Jonathan Geffner, the ventriloquist, on, who does this detective show, Trillo and Suede, and has also done a short narrative piece, which he calls Casa Noir, which is also a takeoff of Casablanca.
Oh, how fun. Okay.
So we got to show you that. So yeah.
Yeah.
So that world again of the 40s, the mysterious, secretive, who's doing what to who, and
Yep.
the lighting is so important there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, and the characters. Now the role of the women. I mean, Casablanca. I mean, the film noir woman is often portrayed in what way? I mean, again, sort of the woman that is tantalizing, yet there's very little, what should I say? They're often they leave, they abandon, they must go, they may have committed a crime. Like Humphrey has to put, Mary Astor? She killed
It was
some-
Ingrid Bergman.
Oh no, but that was in Casablanca. But
Oh.
another. But I'm just trying to make a connection. Maybe there's
Right.
not between the women that let's say within burlesque, which is what I've also come to learn is such an empowering world. How is that tied into some of your conceptions of women and film noir?
Well, there's definitely some of the tropes that you kind of touched on
Right.
just now, where we think that the woman is that way of what you're describing. However, she ends up being completely not what we expect. So I can't dive into that too much further, but there are some of those tropes there for sure. Because
Right.
I think in any period piece, it's difficult to capture the authenticity of that without playing into some of those tropes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so, I think she was having a conversation with another actor the other day about, everyone nowadays, we want to do things that are not stereotypical, that are not tropes. However, people understand tropes, and I think that's what draws people to certain genres. And so the conversation essentially was lean into that. People are familiar with it, they'll accept it, versus trying to do something that's so off the wall just to do it. That's just to do that. And
You
do
got to
something
give
different.
people some structure, some
Exactly.
history of a
Right.
narrative that they can somewhat relate to,
Right.
and then take off on that. We try to do that
Exactly.
here in a way, to think about a transformative world.
Right.
But you've got to, understand that the world just didn't come about like
Right.
this. And as I said, we're going to have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. here in a couple of weeks, and so I remember his father, and so there's a foundation. Some of the audience will remember him, and so where is he now? What is he taking from that world that is so far gone now?
Right.
It's amazing, yeah. Well, that sounds fascinating. Let me ask you about your connection with the incredible advertisers that you've connected with. What is that about in your production? Maybelline, and Estee Lauder, and Prada,
Well,
and so on.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I came to New York to shoot primarily fashion. And then what I discovered actually was it's very closely connected to beauty, which is skincare, cosmetics, hair products, things of that nature. And I was actually very fascinated about that too, because you don't just show up looking a certain way. You know, there's wardrobe, there's glam, there's all this stuff. And during my time shooting, I would often work with a lot of these people, whether it was like shooting with them or working with them to create the particular image that we're trying to see on the screen. And so eventually I just started connecting with people who worked for these large companies. And you know, they really loved my style. Because I studied a lot of fashion and beauty types of advertisements. And so
The energy, there's such energy and musicality.
Right.
How else would you describe it? I mean, it's just very positive, and it's cool. It's
I always
hip,
come
it's
back
all
to the
kinds-
word whimsical.
Whimsical.
That's like the best way for me to describe it, because it's not necessarily edgy. I mean, some people in fashion try to be really edgy, but
Right.
at the end of the day, it's creating something that's, I think, aspirational to a lot of people. Because obviously, you know, if you're wearing a pair of tennis shoes, or if you're wearing a dress that's maybe a couture piece, you're not going to be walking down the street like, you know, just on an everyday thing. But it's something that you can imagine, like, oh, you know, if I had this piece on, it could somehow transform the way I carry myself. And I think that's the idea behind fashion. And so,
That's a great point. What a great, and that term whimsical means that you're introducing a sense of gentleness, in a sense.
Exactly right.
And it's not, as you say, on edge and super scary
Yep.
and super whatever. We have enough of that going around.
It's true.
Just read the Times every day and the nonsense. But yeah, I like that. And so you see your world as very much a whimsical world as well, right?
Yeah, and I think that's
Miss
why.
Coney Island.
I mean, that's why I think we worked so well together. And it's like, we actually just wrapped this last weekend. We got hired to shoot a film for somebody.
Okay.
It's called The Sauce, and it's a dark
Sauce.
comedy. I think you'd love it. And the central
Okay.
theme is gatekeeping.
Wow.
So we just wrapped that, and it was a very exciting experience because Arthur shot it and I produced it. So I helped with the casting and the day of and that whole kind of thing. So we'll have to keep you posted on that one too.
The gatekeepers.
Yeah.
I'm so intrigued. We only have a couple more minutes. No. Well, add your 2 cents onto the.
No, well,
but don't pull my leg here now.
I was just gonna say the interesting thing about The Sauce is it's gatekeeping.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is it's gatekeeping for one of the premises of the film, or themes of the film, is taking something that's not serious so seriously, and then you're trying to gatekeep that from other people.
Yeah.
Whether
Wow. Yeah.
Whether
I
it's
mean,
like-
we could get into
Yeah.
Succession. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if you. That's a whole other thing. But listen, we again only have a minute or two. How can people reach you, see your work? Tell us everything.
Sure. Well, our short film Briar is streaming with the Short Film Collective. So if you go to the shortfilmcollective.com/Briar, you can check out our work there. Arthur is arthurwood.com. I'm pearlsdailystudios.com or pearlsdaily.com. We are all over the internet. You can see us all over.
And you're going to be all over Radical Imagination.
Yes.
And I think we're just about out of time. So this has been a pleasure, a blessing, a joy, so much fun. So great to meet you.
It was a great time, man.
So great to
so
see
great to
you
see you,
again. It's
Jim.
been
Oh
too
my
long.
God.
Let's do this again.
Yeah.
When your film is ready, okay?
Yeah.
A few more months?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We got to run.
Yeah.
Thank you so very, very much again.
Thank you for having
and
us.
thank you so very, very much for listening to us again here on The Radical Imagination. This is Jim Vredos. We'll see you again next week on The Radical Imagination.